So I think we're gonna go ahead and get started. Um, we have a huge crowd. Today we're gonna talk a little bit about the refugee programs that we've been part of for quite some time. And Joyce is gonna talk about the whole kind of history of the refugee allyship that for the peace has had. And then Betsy and Dennis are going to talk about the family that they helped sponsor, and I'm going to talk about the family that I'm helping to sponsor. And then last night, very late, I got a message from Afifa because I had reached out to her, and so she had some ideas for us. So that's the game plan for today. Shall we start?
Maximum occupancy, 12 people. See, we could all be.
You want us to move off?
I said we need to be in a circle so we can have a more conversational thing. Well, my name again is Joyce Stout. I haven't done a speech in a long time. I used to do them all the time, and now last night I went, oh my God. Anyway, I was here at the very beginning of the refugee program when council agreed that Prince of Peace could sponsor a family. And then I can't remember exactly how much later, 3-4 months maybe, a couple of folks from Samaritas came and talked to about 20-25 of us. I still have the original sign up list. So I don't know why I keep things like that, but anyway. We got some enthusiasm, people agreeing to help with the different things that the family, they outlined what these families need when they come into the United States. And so some people talk about God moments. I don't talk about God moments very much. But I felt something, and I'm not sure what it was, but it was just this little something inside of me that said, I need to do this. I'm really happy I did it. It was one of the best decisions I made in my life, I think, besides my husband, but anyway, so in 20
And your dog. And your dog.
Yeah, all my dogs, it's like my little one. I think I'll ask Pastor. In church. He's very sweet. He just sits in my lap. But anyway, in 2016, a young Syrian family came, and I met him at the airport. And it was like 11:30 at night, and this family of 4, young man and woman, and 2 little kids, and those kids were dressed to a T. The little girl had on this flowery dress. You know how they do? They had this flowery dress and little tacky shoes and everything. And they were so excited to be there. They had flown from Jordan and layover in Chicago and then on to Kalamazoo. And so Samaritas was there to meet them, and a couple of folks from the Arab community that could speak their language were there. And so, and prior to that, Prince of Peace had helped get an apartment together for them, the furniture and some food. So somehow I ended up with all 4 of them in my car. I'm not really sure how that happened because it was kind of crowded in there. I don't have that big a car, but so we drove to the apartment, and I didn't go in with them because Samaritas was there, and Afifa, she was there, and she can speak Arabic. So we ended up working with this family. It was a challenging family. I was the primary one that worked with them, and then I would get drivers for them. We even had Dennis Darling, and Lucas Pedersen. had a lesson outside their apartment building on how to put car seats in because they didn't have to have car seats where they came from. So
Where did they come from? Syria? Did you say?
they originally Syria. Oh,
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm looking back there.
It's all right.
Originally Syria, and then they were in Jordan. That they weren't in a refugee camp, as you stereotypical thing, but they were in apartment buildings. And as I understand it, Jordan still has about 1.5 million refugees with them. So anyway, so we a few months later, Peace was asked by Samaritas if we would take a couple more families, and we're all still enthused and everything. So we did, and that's when Dennis and Betsy came in, and Claudia and Pastor Pedersen and Pastor Gatz were in that group, and we divided it up into, we didn't, because I thought somehow, I'm backing up a little bit, but that was right around when Pastor came here. So they had this party at the house to welcome her. And so my name tag said, Joyce Stout, Chair, Refugee Committee. And I'm going, yeah, I'm going, I said to Claudia, I said, I don't know. I said, I didn't agree to that. And she was kind of, she said, but it worked out fine. That's one way to get leaders. Anyway, so, but we did get it 3 teams together. And we had another family of the one, and are you going to talk about Maj and Dila? Okay. But they were very young. I think she was like 19 or something, 20, with 2 little kids. The other family, also young, especially the wife, but they had 4 little girls. And so we just divided up into teams so we aren't all flitting all over the place. And we would meet once a month, talk about what we were doing, to get ideas of where to go, who to contact in the community, things like that. So, but I have to say, and Claudia pretty much handled the finances because she was social concerns. So we had to all go through her to, but the church subsidized some of the stuff, and they even loaned money. I even have one of the families borrowed some money from church, and I have the contract that they signed because we would have them. If they're going to borrow money, they need to be responsible for it. So, but I think Dennis and Betsy can talk about how we, I don't know what you're going to talk about, but I'm telling you what you're going to all the different,
We'll try to fill in.
yeah, all the different things that we did for them. Like we would drive them to dental appointments, we would drive them to medical appointments, go in with them, especially the young women wanted somebody in there that they trusted, and we did end up with real trust relationships. So, in insurance, Dennis got very involved in insurance. And he was really happy about that too. Wasn't that bad. Anyway, so we just helped them to get accustomed to our culture. And I think the thing that really rewarded me personally was I was sitting in the health center with our current, well, they're, Ascende.
Mhm.
And Maj, the young woman that came at 19, not knowing any English, nothing, but she didn't know grocery stores. That was interesting the first few times she went through a grocery store. She walked into that health center. By that time, she had 3 little boys. She had the 2, and then they had another child. And she walked in. She's a tall, well, according to me, she's tall. Anyway, but I was so proud of her. She walked in. She didn't see me, but she's pushing the stroller. The 2 older boys are right on her heels. And she just walks right up to that desk and registers her because it's quite a process to get through. But before I had to, when you register, you have to give obviously your name and then I forget what other information, but she would be like this. Oh, I'm Maj, and, you know, of course people couldn't hear her, but anyway, but she was right up there and she'd learned to drive. So she'd driven these kids over there. So process of seeing her maturity and her excitement and willingness to do these things and taking care of these little boys while her husband's working. He always had a job. He had many jobs, but that's another story. Anyway, so that's kind of a basic history. I mean, I could probably talk all morning about families, but I think it's someone else's turn now. But if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them, but especially after everybody gets a
Why are
chance.
you looking at me?
Pardon?
I said, why are you looking at me?
Well,
I'm waiting.
you always have good questions, though, Marty.
Betsy and Dennis, do you mind?
The Joyce was telling you about the Alcabati family. Betsy and I and Joyce, the team for that family. Since I was the only male in the group, I had to deal with the only male in the family. And it wasn't a bad thing. It was just in their society, women couldn't ride in the same car unaccompanied with a male. So if somebody were driving Maj, had to be a woman or another woman had to be in the car. So as Joyce was saying, I got really good at insurance for their apartment, the car, other insurance. And I can't remember the name of the group, but do you remember?
Nothing.
Yeah, Nolte.
You're
And-
wonderful.
Yeah, once we showed up once or twice, always went to the same person and they were wonderful in handling all of their needs with respect to insurance. So with Bilal, helped them get a bank account set up, driver's license, and had it down here ER. There's one time there was an accident. I don't remember what it was, but it wasn't far from our house that they were visiting another Arab family. And it didn't had a pencil or something go up through the roof of his mouth.
Yes, yeah.
One of the little boys.
One of the kids running with something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so they called us. We were right over there. I took Bilal and the young boy to the ER. So that was a new experience for them. Trying to think of what else. I worked with him on language, so teaching him English, how to pronounce words, some of the grammar aspects, because he had to be able to speak English well enough and understand it to apply for a job and to get employment and be a productive employee. So worked on that. That's really about it as far as the Al-Kabadi family. Betsy and I were having a chuckle yesterday, I think it was, about the family you're still helping when we were dealing with Salamat mostly. And he was what a kid. I mean, loved taking him to the library. He could spend hours, but we would pick out a few books for him and he had an understanding, he'd have to take them back eventually. And so he loved the library.
So did you help him get a library card? Is that?
He didn't have to
No.
get that. They consider the student ID
Oh, okay.
as their library
Uh-huh.
card, so they don't have to get something separate.
At first, until we had that, we just used our card.
You know, we would check out the books and helped him with homework, so he understood the homework. And I had down your drive to school. Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, or the one time
Yeah.
he missed the bus.
Yeah, he missed the bus,
Yeah.
and then called us, can you take me to school? It's like, it's great.
Yeah.
So that's about all I'll say about that family.
He was the one that got really good grades.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Smart.
He's smart.
He's really smart.
Yeah. So any questions about the male side of the Alcibiades?
Well, the thing is, the Arabic families, they are so smart kids, you know, they really are. And it always, because when we first met them, I'm sorry.
No, please.
All these stories.
Come on, please, we want to panel discussion here.
But the, Maj and Bilal are first cousins. And they're married, and in our society, that's really like, oh my gosh, when are the kids going to church? That was my first thought. But those kids are so smart, and they've been doing really well in school. They're now living in Warren, Michigan. So yeah,
Is that culture one that, that boys and girls have equal education or girls get less? They get equal?
equal. I just came across last night. It's written so small, but Maj had started a diary, and she made a copy of some of the things starting when she was 15 and the war was starting in Syria. They were still living in Syria, and how she wanted to continue her education and get a degree and everything. Well, she still hasn't done that. You know, it's hard raising kids and everything, but anyway.
It's hard for anyone, yeah.
But yeah.
And
that's
expenses.
long answer to a record such as it.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I would start out with about Maj, how bright she was. When she came here, she wanted to be a doctor. Yeah, she was ready to go for education and do it all. And she certainly was capable of it. She was so smart. She really taught herself a lot of things from YouTube. She taught herself how to crochet and do all sorts of things and beautiful work. Trying to help support the family. She actually was making jewelry and trying to sell it through, there were some Arab community things that would sell things, and she wanted to do that to help support, and she was just giving it her all. But being young and a woman in the Muslim faith, she has certain limitations. We talked about the driving, and even when she takes some driving lessons, and we had a professional. I helped her learn to drive around town, but I wasn't going to do the freeway thing with her. She liked to drive fast. She was a very ambitious young woman. And so we hired to have a professional teach her some of the ramp activities. And but I had to go along because she couldn't be alone with a male in the car. And that was fun. It was just watching her wanting to try everything and do everything. But again, the limitations of being very young, even though she wanted to drive, they couldn't afford insurance for under 25 driver in the family. So it was a long time before she could actually do it. Luckily, by the time she was driving the kids to when you saw her, that all worked out. That's really wonderful. But it was fun too when we'd just be us girls. If I'd step over to help her with something without the guys around, and she could lose the Habib, and she was in her t-shirt and leggings and ponytail and just being a gal, and it was just really fun to get to know her on that level. And the hospitality of the family. They're so appreciative, and you can't walk in their home without being served either wonderful food or some really good coffee and the teas they make, depending on the time of day. If you visit in the morning, you get coffee, visit in the afternoon, you get tea. Oh, just wonderful hospitality and appreciation. And it was really rewarding. There were trying times, but you're so thankful that the trust that they want you to be there, when there's a need, an emergency room visit or something happened or someone's sick, that they feel free to call. But beyond that, the congregation here was great too. Drivers, we can't, this team of three couldn't do all the driving. And we had so many wonderful people step up to take her to ESL classes or anything that she needed like that. We had really good support to the congregation. You already talked a little bit about, going to sometimes missing the bus for school for some of the other kids and things like that would happen. Just the normal things any of us would do for someone who's a friend. And that's what really they became in a lot of ways, a friend. But we haven't kept in touch. I still, Maj and I text each other birthday and special events once in a while. I get a picture of the kids and it's fun, but you get to hear from Joyce, some of you, a little more contact than we do with them. And it's wonderful hearing how they're doing and
Yeah.
succeeding and citizens now and everything. So,
Yeah.
any questions?
And Vila actually is driving a big semi.
That's right.
He went to Warren to do the school or whatever, truck driving school, I guess. But he there was a teacher there that taught in Arabic, taught the bus. So he felt more comfortable doing that, and then he would have with all English speaking. So he's doing that, and I hear from him every couple weeks and talking about the kids. And now his brother is here in Warren, and his family, his brother and his family. So I asked Maj what she was doing now that the three boys are in school. She says, I'm helping my brother. It must be her cousin too, I'm thinking. Anyway.
Or sibling.
Yeah. Oh, no. Anyway, but she is helping with all the stuff we used to do for that family. So that was really sweet. And I'll shut up, but I have to tell you one more story that just always makes me I love that family. But anyway, I was downtown Kalamazoo one day and I get this call from the school, and the older boy, Bejas, would not go to the bathroom. He just wouldn't go to the bathroom. And they said he's crying and screaming and everything, but he would not go. Can you come and pick him up? And so I did. Well, he had to do number 2, but he wouldn't do it at school. So he runs in the house, does his business, comes back out and comes up to me and says, okay, I'm ready to go back to school. No, you're not gonna do that every time you have to go to the bathroom.
That's not unique to that culture.
Anyway,
Wasn't it something about he was used to the bidet at home, didn't know how to use the toilet
yeah,
paper?
had a good day. Yeah. The reason I got, well, that's another story. Anyway, yeah.
He learned.
I have many stories.
Yeah.
So I have been helping with the Congolese family for 3 years now. And I wish Claudia was in here because we went to this organizational meeting, and the Samaritas gave us a choice between having a family of 4, dad and 2 kids, or having a mom who had 7 kids. And so Dale Depp said, well, we know we have to take that big family. And I wasn't very much in favor of it, but I also realized that he was a pastor and I probably shouldn't talk back to him. Right? Now I know better, but at the time, I just said to Claudia, who was sitting next to me, God help us if they have another child. Well, long story short, they have had another child. So now there's 8 kids instead of 7 kids. So it's always been a challenge because you can't get that many kids in, especially because you have to have a baby seat and stuff like that. So taking them places has always been really interesting. And they were in a refugee camp before they came. So there's so many things that are different. It's not just the culture, but for instance, in Tanzania and the Congo, they don't celebrate birthdays. So when they were filling out the forms for the State Department, let me just say, I think there were some colorful birthdays that were put down on that piece of paper because Sunday didn't actually keep track of all that stuff. So that was kind of an awakening for me, because even though we then started celebrating birthdays, they probably had nothing to do with their actual birthday, right? But anyway, we had fun doing that, and they really enjoyed having cake and balloons and all the things that we do for birthdays because they weren't used to it. But there's a lot of things that we are used to, like, paying to have our trash taken away and stuff. And then it was like dead set against spending money for something like that, right? I tried to explain to her that you can't just like throw it out your back door because then you're going to get a ticket. You're still going to have to clean it up and stuff like that. But it was a very difficult concept for her. The kids have done really super well. Some of them learn more easily than others. And we were talking about Saliman. So Saliman now is a freshman at Loy Norks. The older two kids started out at Loy Norks, but they were bullied really badly because they couldn't speak English and there were many other impediments, right? And so they ended up going to Phoenix, which was really a wonderful thing for them because the classes are very small and the teachers are really invested in the pupils, like they want them to succeed. So that was a good experience for the two older kids. But Saliman made up his mind that he was going to Loy Norks. The reason is because he wants to be a world soccer star. And so I sent him to soccer camp this summer because he knows the shots, but he didn't know the names of the shots. And so he went to camp, and right away the guys at camp could see he had, talent. So he had told them that he wanted to be on the Loy Norks team. So they gave me the names of the coaches for Loy Norks, and I got in touch with them, and they said that they were doing practices, okay, not official practices, because you can only practice, like 4 weeks before the first game, but they were doing scrimmages. But what I didn't know is they were doing scrimmages twice a day. So I drove him there for the first week or two, and then I taught him how to ride the bus, which was pretty funny because as a freshman, I was in Chicago, and I ended up having to take the public bus because I went to the Lutheran high school. So it was kind of deja vu, right? Like, you have to pull the cord so they stop for you and that kind of thing. Anyway, he's now very accomplished at riding the bus. And during that last week before they had the tryouts, again, they were doing twice a day. And so there was no way he could go home and eat and be back in time. So I took him to lunch each day, but someplace different. And that was super fun for him because they don't have the money to eat out. So going to all of these places that he had never been before was fun. And he got to, pick food he had never had and stuff like that. So it was a good experience. And I may have told you guys this story before, but there's a Mideastern gentleman who comes to get food at the food distribution line here at church. And he has a Jeep. He has all these little ducks, by his windshield on the Jeep. And so I always talk to people and, I admired his ducks. And so one time he gave me a duck. And so the day that Saliman was going to do tryouts, I could actually hear his teeth because he was so scared, right? And so I reached over and I got the duck and I said, "This is a lucky duck. Put this in your backpack. If you get scared, all you have to do is rub the duck in. You're good to go." Anyway, he made the team, and which was another very interesting deal because, he had never taken buses to games and all that kind of stuff. So he's learned so much this year, and he, he was failing algebra. And, I had already explained to him that if he didn't keep up his grade, that they would throw him off the team. And the soccer coach is not going to cut him any slack. So he told me that he was failing. And I said, well, we got to do something about this. And so I got the teacher on the phone along with the Sunday. And the teacher, I explained to him that, Seliman really loves soccer. And so he gave Seliman a chance to make up the things, the assignments he hadn't turned in. Like the minute I heard he was failing, I said, have you turned everything in? Because, my kids, I know. And he was like, oh yeah. Well, he hadn't, right? And there was some other thing.
It wasn't that he didn't understand algebra. I mean, he was grasping what that was all about. He just didn't do his homework.
No, he really didn't get, like he had problems before with only one variable, but now he had problems that had 2 or 3 variables.
So it's been complicated.
How
for him as well.
how you get from, one variable to more, he wasn't getting. So the teacher let him come in for 2 weeks, every other evening, and worked with him, and he got it then. And but in the meantime, the teacher put down incomplete on the report card because he hadn't turned on all of this stuff, and that way he didn't have an F, and therefore he could keep on playing. So there's all kinds of really interesting things that come up, and like taking the kids for health appointments and all that kind of stuff. I mean, people all the time, they look at me like, what kind of relative are you to them? And I go, I'm just a friend. So anyway, it's been a big education for me because I knew nothing about their culture, and I've learned a lot. So last night, Afifa from Samaritas sent me a note because I had been very upset over the refugee status, and I was afraid of what might happen. And she sent me a note saying that they have several families that could use more help. And so if there are people in this room who would like to help, she would be happy to introduce people to the families. She said also that they need people to drive individuals to ESL classes. So that's another opportunity we have. And then she said one of the things that they really need is to hook people up with places that they can work. And I don't know any business owners in town, but I'm sure people in this room know business owners in town or know of good places that are willing to take people who don't have perfect English and things like that. So that's another place where Afifa said if we know of anybody that we should let them know so that they can have more employed refugees. So I don't know, are there any questions or
remarks? So I want to say something about the employment. If you can do anything, it breaks my heart that Samaritas puts a lot of these people in the meatpacking business. That's not a job you would want anyone you care about to have. And so it's just hard to see. We do everything we can to help these people, and then we put them in like some of the most undesirable work there is because they have to work. They can't just be on assistance forever. That's a condition. Correct me if I get this wrong, but a condition of them coming over in this program is to become financially self-sufficient, and they can't apply for some of the other programs that other impoverished people in the United States rely on. Is that correct? Okay, so I just want to say that, I mean, if we don't help them, and they do get a chance to be employed, it's probably going to be in really tragic work environment.
Well, so does anybody have any idea of where we could be,
Well, I mean,
snooping around to
I
get?
know that, like, where I work, they hire a lot of foreign students whose English isn't very good to work with people. We have people like lower functioning than Jesse. Jesse wouldn't come to our program. Really, people who also don't communicate. I mean, we try to have a majority of English speaking employees, but that's one thing. And they have apartments that they have a hard time finding the night shift for. If there's families that I'm thinking, both parents need to work, but not at the same time,
Yeah.
that might be an option.
Okay. And where would I look like on the?
Well, I'll
Western.
connect you after.
Okay.
Yeah, I can, we can go to the Western website, or I can give you a phone number.
How about other ideas? Anybody?
Trying to think of the place that Bilal worked at out on Circle Road.
I didn't come up with an input, but
Oh, I know, I've got it at home. When he got a job, I think it was there, but anyway, I was told Samaritas arranged with the employment agency to go there and work with them. He already had a job. Well, I think he already had it. But anyway, that's somewhere to start too. I don't know much about employment agencies.
What about the Mowers Company? They own Humphrey Products or run Humphrey Products. I don't know what kind of work they have to offer people.
Okay.
I thought about before he passed, seeing a great job with what are their first names? Yeah.
Okay, that's a good idea.
They don't attend very often, but I mean, he's been president.
They just had their grandbaby baptized.
Yeah.
So, other comments or questions? You used the word awakened, and I also worked with that family. And what I was awakened to was, of course, they have challenges that people born here don't, language in particular and culture. But it really raised my awareness of how hard it is to be a single parent, an impoverished single parent, even a working two parent working. What really rose my awareness of that was when the school buses all kept getting canceled. And like our family actually had an advantage over the other families because they had us as a support. And I kept thinking, well, why doesn't the neighborhood like organize somehow or have a some sort of collaboration? And I don't know that people are neighbors the way we think of neighbors when we're all young here, right? When we were all growing up, I remember my mom didn't drive, and there was an arrangement like the neighbors would help drive us, but on a snow day, my mom, she didn't work either. She would take kids in, so the mom, there was more neighborly collaboration, and I just think how hard it is, even if you don't have the language and the culture challenges to raise your family safely and in a nurturing way. So, I mean, it really raised my awareness of poverty, how challenging that is.
I had no idea what you could and couldn't get off of the EBT card, but what you can't get off of the EBT card is appalling. Okay, because there are things that you just can't live without, and so I love the free store that Claudia runs because it really helps so many of our clients, there's lots of things I've learned about what those kids end up going without and how hard it is. I mean, every kid now has an iPhone, right? Sunday can't afford phones for all of her kids. So just the communication part of things is so difficult because, you know, if they do miss the bus, that first year, Jim and Kim and I would run school routes because even though some of the younger kids were at the Y, the bus wouldn't pick them up on Portage Road. They insisted that they walk 2 blocks over to get picked up. And the Y wouldn't release the kids because they couldn't see them at that bus stop.
Someone's put a note in the chat. I can't read it from here.
The Angie.
You have to go back to your computer and click on the chat.
I didn't realize we were chatting.
Go to your computer, Lynn, and click on the chat. It's got a little red blot on it. Keep going.
Yeah, I see that.
All right. And then someone closer read it to us.
That is good.
What kind of things does the free store have or need? So the free store,
I'm about to get him on.
we have several versions of free store, but the first Thursday, we have mostly things like detergent and bleach and kind of, I would say, cleaning product type things. Okay. Then the third Thursday, we have more paper products like toilet paper and tissues and diapers and those kinds of things.
Tampons, that kind of
I'm
thing.
sorry.
Tampons.
Yeah. Mhm. And I've been feeding the box out there, and I always put hygiene products in the box along with food. So because the middle schoolers and the high schoolers walk by every day. So if they're hungry, they can get food. And if they need other things, they're in that box. So does that answer your question? Is that Angie? I'm guessing it's Angie.
Yeah, it says Angie.
Anyway, any other?
Well, and I was suggesting, Lynn and I were talking about getting word out to the congregation about the needs that Afifa is explaining in her email, that we either do a bulletin insert or ask pastor if we can send a general email out, something in the newsletter, maybe all three things, because some people don't read the newsletter and some don't come to church. And
This is not going to be us adopting another family, or I don't know if adoption is the right word. This is going to be helping families that are
Helping families
sponsored
that
by
others.
other churches, but they need some more support.
Yeah. And I will say that when we first decided that we would give this presentation, I was gonna put a plea out to get another family, but obviously those doors are shut right now. So helping people who are already here, I think, is an option for us.
I also want to make a comment that years ago, well, it was during COVID when I was like binging on documentaries. I saw a movie called Human Flow, and it's on Amazon, and it's about a refugee camp and what life. So if you're interested in, like this family came from a refugee camp, it's a really interesting movie about what it might be like to live in a refugee camp.
what was the name again?
Human Flow. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate everybody coming. I know we've got a few minutes left, but if we don't have any more questions, I think we ought to go get some water and read our bulletin. Thanks a lot.
Thank
Thank you.
Thanks.